Roll it! Hi, how is everyone doing? This is Isaac Winoto, the host and founder of the Footprints Podcast, presented by Gen Digital Productions. We went on a brief pause for quite a while, but now we're back. In case you're new here, this podcast is not just your regular one-on-one interview, but instead, we're a platform that cares about the digital world we live in, its future, and the unique people behind it straight into your ears. We've had various guests who've walked different ways of life.
Faith Manjuntak.
Eva Alicia.
Azevedo, Ando Firesca, Adikara Dalop.
Shared stories unheard of.
For me to decide that I want to be a singer, itu Mike Mohede. Kalau dia nggak ada dan dia ngomong kayak gitu, I wouldn't want to be a singer.
And showed us the light at the end of their footprints.
Zach, you're gonna make mistakes in your life. Trust me, you're gonna make mistakes. But the key is to learn from them.
Be aware in the more literal sense of knowing what's happening in the world.
We want to see color. When I see your color, I must be proud and I must see it as something beautiful.
But starting this month, we're kicking it into another gear. From underrated young guests, world-renowned artists, and CEOs with a passion to make a difference, you'll listen to more voices, more passions, and for sure, more stories that make these heroes who they are today. Just sit back, enjoy, and stay tuned for more. Welcome back to another episode of the Footprints Podcast, where we will explore the footprints of today's heroes and tomorrow's leaders. My name is Isaac Winoto, and today we've got a very special episode. This episode is going to be on Spotify and YouTube. And if you like this conversation, feel free to share, post it on at the Footprints Podcast, tag the Footprints Podcast on Instagram or TikTok. All right, so today I'm joined by my co-host, Aziza. Do you want to introduce yourself for a little bit, Aziza?
Hey everyone, my name is Aziza. I will be one of your co-hosts for today.
Awesome. And yeah, without further ado, let's introduce our guest today. So our guest today wears a lot of different hats. She has passions in environmental sustainability, business, and also activism. Chaya Sabina, gimana kabar lo?
Baik. Thank you for having me here. It's truly an honor. And I feel like I've known Aziza for a while now, so I was so happy to hear from her.
Right. You guys go far back through Bye Bye Plastic Bags, right? Which is something that we'll discuss a lot throughout this conversation. But yeah, basically, first of all, we wanted to say a late congratulations for you, obviously, for completing high school. With things really changing a lot, these few years. Change is always going to be there, right? But, moving from high school to university is a big shift, right? So what are you feeling right now? Is it excitement? Is it nervous as you go on from one step to another in life?
I'm very excited, yes, but I think I'm equal parts excited and terrified.
Right.
Because my plan for university is I'll be taking my bachelor's in Amsterdam, University of Amsterdam, but I will be taking a gap year prior to that. So currently I'm technically on my gap year. And the reason why I'm terrified yet excited is because the main reason why I decided to take a gap year, other than the pandemic and safety reasons, is because I have this year to try my best to turn Wabi Sabi Cookies into passive income.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of the main objective here, and I have there's kind of a lot of pressure. I feel a lot of pressure just for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm so excited to finally, be able to pursue all of my ambitions and nurture my passions and to get to know people, just new people that I'm gonna experience life with, as cheesy as that sounds. So yeah, that's how I feel right now.
Right. I feel like, when we start, school from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, it's boom, 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 right? It keeps going and going. And, just having that 1 year of rest where you can explore your passions and as well as, just get a bit of rest, right? Before you go on to, the next challenge, which is university. So that's really interesting. Yeah, so before we start, kind of to break the ice a little bit, I think Aziza prepared some finish the sentence questions. Take it away.
Yeah, so
Nervous.
let's just wash off all that pressure that you're going through with playing a little game.
For
So
sure.
it's a finish the sentence game. So I'm gonna explain the game a little bit. So I'm going to say a sentence, you're gonna finish it. For example, my favorite food is cookies. Wabi Sabi Cookies. Something like that. Okay, let's start. Are you ready?
Sure.
Ready.
Dot makes me happy.
I would say concerts.
I long to go to
miss
concerts.
concerts.
I
Exactly.
used to, oh my god, that talking about this with my friend the other day actually. Like I feel like everyone has their everyone has an activity that makes them feel so like alive in a way. Like you just
Yes.
can't help but be happy. Like
Yep.
it feeds your soul. And for me, it's like either like concerts, like loud, like crowded concerts,
Right.
or like and like being in the crowd, jumping or whatever, or like just being still, like in nature, like
Yep.
with a book alone. Like there's no in between. That's like the two like I don't know, the two things that like I thrive in, the two situations I thrive in.
Right. I think what you're describing is an escape, right? Sometimes in life, it's like
Yeah.
you want to have that escape, that therapy, and I think for me, I think food, makes me happy. It's not my
Oh my
escape.
God. Yeah.
But if you're talking about an escape, yeah, definitely just a very nice just traveling to like the mountains, or even just
Yeah.
going to I like going on like off the beaten paths, right? That's not the mainstream, just going to the cities and stuff. Or what about you, Aziza?
Well, I just want to say, like, I can definitely relate to you, Chaya. It's like flow state. You kind of feel like you're in the flow state.
Yes,
Like,
Right.
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's such a like rare feeling that you can get in a lot of places.
Mhm.
And like once you get it, you get so hungry for it. Like you want it to feel it again.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I like, for me it's also like doing like adrenaline like
Yeah.
stuff. You know, like once you feel it, you're like, oh damn.
The next one.
Dot makes me forget about time.
Ooh, like like performing.
That was not
Does
rapid
that make
fire.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
but it's all good.
Yeah, I would say performing, like all forms of it, whether it's
Okay.
just like playing guitar in my room or performing arts like theater, things like that. Yeah.
For sure. That sounds good. I think it's music for me as well. Just
Yeah.
whether it's arranging, whether it's just playing, it makes me forget about time. Also, watching basketball is something that I can't live without.
Ooh.
Right.
What instrument do you play?
I play the guitar mainly, electric guitar, but I do play different instruments as well.
Very cool.
Mhm.
I cannot relate when it comes to music. I'm not gifted in that area. Sorry guys. I think what makes me forget about time is super simple. It's literally like Netflix.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say
it.
like movies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay. The one thing I am most proud of is
Surviving the IB with a satisfying score. Honestly, right now, that's all I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that whole thing is over.
the IB just came out like recently, right?
Yeah.
The last one. Let's go. Last finish the sentence question.
All right. 1 year ago, I wished I had.
I wish I had a life without the pandemic. Like, I wish there was no pandemic.
Right.
Until now.
Yes. It's not only 1 year ago. Right now, we're still
Like right
hoping.
now,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That things get better. But yeah, really good. I think from the 4 questions that Aziza gave you, you nailed 3 of them. For one of them, it was a bit. But it's fine. It's fine. 3 or 4. It's not bad. But anyway, speaking of 1 year ago, right? You took a brave step last year, I think, and you decided to start Wabi Sabi, which is an online cookie selling business. Maybe to start things off, and you mentioned Wabi Sabi, just earlier in the conversation, but what went through your head? What motivated you to start it back in May of 2020?
So, a funny story. Actually, I never had the intention for it to turn into a business. So I actually, the Instagram account started May, but I actually started selling it on my personal Instagram story around end of March, or no, end of April, no, end of March, or between March and April. And I remember being surprised by the response, because more people ordered than I thought. The amount was a lot bigger than what I expected. And it came to a point where I felt like I was spamming, because I was posting about cookies every single day. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what my friends signed up for when they followed my Instagram.
Right.
And so the thing that, when I made that Instagram, the Wabi Sabi Cookies Instagram account, actually started for efficiency. It was just, okay, it's an easy way for my friends to order my cookies. And I was literally thinking of my friends. I wasn't thinking of other customers that like strangers that I didn't know.
Right.
So I wasn't really expecting anything, It was kind of a decision I made without any expectations. Luckily it turned out a lot better than what I thought. And I guess, yeah, that was what went through my head. But then also I want to tell you about, like, I've always had a passion or like a hobby of baking.
Okay.
And I've always been that friend who sends baked goods and handwritten letters to my friends. That has always been like my love language, I guess you could say. And that was something I used to do before the pandemic very regularly. And when the pandemic started, I remember like my friends started asking me if they could have cookies. And during that time, I did send them cookies, like when they asked for it. But then it got to a point where, like, I saw the potential of it, like, okay, maybe I can make my own money from here. And also, cookies aren't necessarily the cheapest thing to make.
Right.
Especially when you're running on like allowance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I will make you guys pay for this now. And I started telling it on my personal Instagram story. So that's what happened.
Right. I think it's one thing to, just start selling things, because I feel like in, just at the height of the pandemic last year, everyone was starting to create their own, their own store, or, their own side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is starting to do that. But for you to be able to maintain it, and at the same time, caring about, the environment, obviously, I think you also put in your packaging, I think, is also eco-friendly. It's another thing to think about all these different things, right? I just want to let me ask you this. So what really went into your head, to actually make a business that not only makes money, but also be sustainable? Like, why do you think it's such an important thing to be sustainable as a business?
I think all of that I have to owe to Bye Bye Plastic Bags, like my experience there. Shout out Aziza.
Shout out BBPB.
Yeah, BBPB. I think being in an environmental organization for almost 3 years, I think, kind of ingrained that value in my head. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I started the cookie business, it wasn't even using plastic wasn't even an option, because I was already so like adamant that I had to make a sustainable company, just because that's what I value.
Right.
And if I made a business that wasn't aware of the environmental impacts it was making, then it's not like I can't consider it my business, because it's not something I'm passionate of. It's not something I'm supportive of. So like it was kind of like an automatic thing, really. Like it wasn't I didn't think of it as like a marketing strategy, or something that is to be used in that sense. but mostly because I just think that should be what people should do. Like it's just a normal thing that people should do. And I guess like expanding more on that, in terms of environmental, it was more automatic. But then when I decided to donate monthly, like Wabi Sabi donates 10 to 15% to different causes every month. That was sort of the time where I was like when I decided to do that, it was mostly because I find it more fulfilling that way. It's like I'm given this privilege to create my own business, and honestly, I'm living fine. Like I have a roof on top of my head. It's not like me making money right now isn't a necessity more than it is a learning experience. And so when I have this excess of like profit, I just decided to give back, because that's kind of like the best thing you can do with, when you don't know what, like when you're practically given everything you need already. So that was kind of what I was thinking about during the time where I was trying to decide like where Wabi Sabi stands in like the business spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Menurut gue sih nggak bisa dipungkiri bahwa a business, like its main purpose is to make money, right?
Yeah.
Then like you said before, like your cookies, they're expensive, right? It's not like it's really cheap as well. And I think a lot of the considerations and a lot of the a lot of the drawbacks that people think being sustainable has is it's expensive. Like let's say plastic is cheap, and going for more eco-friendly packaging might be more expensive. So do you have any tips for those who want to start a business but at the same time want to be sustainable, so that you can get that best of both worlds, still making money but at the same time always caring about the environment?
I mean, it's no question that like eco-friendly bags or eco-friendly packaging is a lot more expensive than plastic packaging or non-biodegradable packaging. So I think I guess the way I saw it was maybe if I were to use plastic for my packaging, maybe I will be making more profit, but I'll be like, the expense will be to something else. Like it won't be something that I can see on my financial report. It'll be like me contributing to the global like negative impact we're having to the environment, right? But I mean that's something very personal that I think like people can only people can only have that mindset from their own like doing, like from their own initiative to learn and things like that. And I'm very lucky that I had my experience with bioplastic bags, because it really taught me a lot about the environment and what's happening in the world. But I would say if you're starting, like it was also easy for me because it was a new business. It's not like Wabi Sabi have always been running and now I'm trying to make that switch from plastic to sustainable packaging, right? So it was really like I didn't feel like a loss because I had nothing to compare it to. I couldn't compare the profits that I'm making now compared to back then when I was using plastic. Maybe that's the thing maybe that's the thing that's like sort of it's like becoming an obstacle to, I guess, bigger companies or something, because they're used to making this much profit and now they're gonna have to like cut that down. So I guess honestly it goes back to just your mindset and like how your values, really your company's values, your business's values, but also knowing that the more people like when there are more people making that change, taking that step into using biodegradable packaging, it will become cheaper and cheaper, because these suppliers are going to have to mass produce it. Now it's expensive because people are making it in small amounts. Plastic is cheap because plastic is like, people are making plastic every second. Like it's literally like so cheap now because it's mass produced, unlike biodegradable packaging. So I think I'm just staying hopeful for the future, and hopefully more and more businesses are gonna take that step.
That's
I think a practical tip that I can take for our listeners is to just get to know more about the issue.
Yeah.
And I think, as you mentioned plenty about bioplastic bags, is you've learned a lot about the issue through bioplastic bags. And that's how it became a value that you prioritize, and that is important for not only your daily life, but also your business now. So I think, yes, all listeners out there, check out bioplastic bags and also like try to learn more about this issue, because it is becoming it still is a very
absolutely
big issue. Yeah.
And there are so many like documentaries and YouTube videos and everything.
For sure.
We're in like the digital age where there's information everywhere.
For sure.
So there's literally no excuse to not learn.
So for our listeners, if we've been mentioning BBPB a lot, but what is bioplastic bags? Bioplastic bags is a movement and an NGO powered by youth, just like Chaya, around the world to say no to bioplastic bags. So I did a little bit of research, and if I'm not mistaken, you started off as a bioplastic bags spokesperson, and then you became a board member, school club leader, and then you became a Bioplastic Bags Jakarta team leader. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you did all of that while you were still doing high school? And did you do Wabi Sabi as well at the same time? Or
Wabi Sabi happened started last year when the pandemic started. So for a long time, bioplastic bags was like the main thing.
I see.
Yeah. So like, how did you juggle all that? Because Bioplastic Bags Jakarta has a lot of events. Like, you guys have collaborated with big companies. You guys spoke at guest spoke at hotels, and it was like a huge thing. So how did you juggle high school, your personal life, hang out with friends and everything, as well as a leader of a big movement? Like, how did you juggle all that? What was it like?
It was like, I mean, it took me years to finally get the hang of it. I think it was also easy because I was sort of climbing the ladder, so I didn't start as hard.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew our system, our groove, I guess, when I was a leader. I think it's if I were to give practical tips, honestly, what saved my life was just Google Calendar and time management. I think also it helped that Bioplastic Bags was the team is comprised of people my age, it didn't feel much like a job. It felt like a gathering of passionate people, which was inspiring. It motivated me to keep going. And seeing the growth of the team and seeing all of these members sort of thriving individually and collectively was kind of what made it feel like what you say, it was kind of a state of flow. It wasn't it was easy for me to juggle because it wasn't draining me as a normal job would, and also because I was passionate about it. But yeah, I would say if I were to give tips, it's just to find what works, the management system that works for you. Because for me, I had to plan my week every single week, through calendar, or having an agenda, or setting short-term goals and making a to-do list, things like that. Those are kind of the skills I've mastered from having to juggle all of those things, but also from knowing what fills you with happiness and what fills your energy. I've only learned recently that I'm actually such a people person. I'm a big extrovert. I just realized, and so I was able to sort of structure my week in a way that was, I would add an activity that I know would fill my energy, that would make me happy, and then place a task, like a exhausting task afterwards. So that was kind of how I juggled it all, if that makes sense.
For sure. I think it's not only time management, right? To be able to, we don't only need to be able to manage your time wisely, but looking at more of a macro perspective, it's basically energy management, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There are some tasks that might, take more energy, that might be more pressure maybe, and there are tasks that, just like you said, just makes you happy. You don't feel like you're actually doing work, right? And speaking of what you did in BBPB, Jay, I think Aziza also mentioned that you guys had guest speakers in hotels. You guys did a lot of things, and definitely that all boils down to impact, right? The impact that you have, not only for the community but also for your other members as well, because as a leader, you're someone that people look up to, right? And how old are you? 16, 17?
17.
17, right? And being 17 years old and having people look up to you as a team leader, that's that's a lot in your hands as well. So what kept you going, as a young leader of such a big organization?
I think it's like, first it's important to like I don't know, I never really it's important to not place yourself at a pedestal.
Yeah.
Because even though I was team leader of Bioplastic Bags Jakarta, I was also aware that there are many other environmental NGOs that are doing a lot more than we were. If I were to be honest, there are a lot of organizations making more concrete like steps in stopping Jakarta from not using plastic anymore.
Right.
So what kept me going was, first, like I said before, like the community aspect of it, like the friends I've made from it, and being actually interested in learning about each of them and helping each other develop into the best people we can the best person we can become. But also I think having that sort of mindset that you don't know everything
Yeah.
yet. Like
Love
it
that.
like forces you to keep going so that you can keep on learning.
Right.
And you can keep on nurturing this passion that you have when like environmental sustainability and learning about like the problem that's happening all over the world, which is or just not even all over the world, like in this country or in the city or in your area, in your school,
exactly.
things like it was kind of like it was a very interesting topic for me. And I truly believe that like humans in general, like if we are not learning anything new, that is like the recipe to feeling stuck.
Yeah.
And
sure.
and in Bioplastic Bags, when I was forced to learn, and I was forced to like information was forced in front of my face, it was kind of like, okay, like holy crap, okay,
Yeah.
oh my god. Yeah. So that was what kept me going, like the learning aspect and the community, like the making friends and everything, that combined.
Was there like a specific moment during your time at BBPBJ that made you feel like, okay, I really like the impact that I made was like, you could feel it. You could feel the impact that you made, be it, from your like the people that were in Bioplastic Bags, or, just the whole community, like feeling or maybe just thanking you for what you've done in BBPBJ. Was there like one moment that like you still remember until now as like the impact moment?
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say people would thank me individually, because it was
For
never
sure.
individual.
It's collective, right?
It's very much collective, yes. But what I would always remember is whenever, because we have school clubs, right? Like Bioplastic Bags Jakarta, our system is we had school clubs. So members would come from different schools, and in their respective schools, they would have Bioplastic Bags Club, focused on making their school plastic free. That was kind of our approach.
Right.
So whenever I get reported of like progress, like as simple as like we no longer use plastic cutleries in our school. It was kind of like because we don't Bioplastic Bags Jakarta doesn't have much impact in terms of the legal side of plastic, the governmental side of plastic. It's not really in our hands.
Okay.
But when it comes to like the schools, like the students, that's kind of our thing, right? Because we're literally like the Jakarta's youth. So whenever I hear of progress in terms of like schools, that really makes me happy for sure, because like it's actual genuine progress happening. So yeah, I think that's that's kind of like the main thing in terms of environmental. But in terms of like the more development, like how each member developed as a person, it's like, I don't know. So I remember like some members talking to me like, thank you. Like, I don't know. It's more so like the organizational experience in bioplastic bags helped them kind of pursue their own passions outside of bioplastic bags.
That's amazing.
Like, I know so many members who have started their own movements or who've joined other movements and are thriving in those. And it's so inspiring to see, because it's like it's such a great community and everyone's so passionate and so determined and tenacious, and it's like I'm really, really glad I was a part of it for a while.
And I think
go ahead. Yeah, I think community is very important when creating anything or being a part of anything. I think being surrounded by inspirational energy, like that you give off to one another, and that like really keeps you going, I feel like. And at times where you feel stuck or you feel like maybe this isn't for me anymore, it's the people around you that like really keep you going. So like I can definitely relate to what you're saying. Yeah.
And I think what you said, and this podcast is all about youth empowerment, right? And I think one thing that you said, that having that impact, that although it's indirectly, right, but having the members also start something new in their own communities, that's what youth empowerment is, right? And I think how you lead by example, how you've led Bioplastic Bag, it indirectly planted seeds to your other members to start something, right? Like that fire, basically, you distributed that fire, right, to the other members as well. And I think this really ties in really well to obviously our youth empowerment thing here in the Footprints podcast. One common theme that I think you've done over the years is that you had a vision and you made it happen. Be it in Bioplastic Bags or be it in Wabi Sabi Cookies. And I think the problem with a lot of youths today is that we have all these ideas, we have all these visions, we know that we have to make a difference, but we just need that little kick, that flair to start actually doing something. So how do you encourage youth who are one step away from making it happen?
Wow. I think that it's having ideas and having these sort of visions in our head is kind of a shared thing in the youth community. It's like and it's like a trait that all youths have.
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
Right? Yeah. And it's like, I think, I don't know, sometimes I was lucky because the visions I had were things I was genuinely passionate about. It was things that I was like, okay, this is the thing I want to do. And sometimes other youths might have ideas that like might be a good idea, but it's not necessarily something they're super passionate about. And it's not something that it's something they're still unsure of. So I would say, honestly, like the thing I would just recommend people to do is like to learn more and more about yourself, to figure out what you like to do until you're sure that like that whatever vision you have is what you want to do. But also like to not be so afraid of the consequences or the drawbacks, because we don't have anything tying us down right now. We have no kaya kita nggak ada we have responsibilities, but we don't have to pay the bills, or at least a lot of us are lucky enough to not have to pay the bills. And then like we have so much space to explore, like make use of that, make the most of that. So that's kind of, I guess, I don't know, I would say that's what I would tell. That's what I would usually tell my friends. Is just like to go for it. If it fails, then it fails, and you'll try something else. But don't spend too much time worrying about it not happening.
Exactly. I've heard like some of my friends say this as well. Di usia kita sekarang, like 17, 18, 19, quota fail kita masih banyak, right? We don't have much responsibilities yet. We don't have, when we're gonna be like 20s or 30s, then the responsibilities are gonna start to be there, when we're not in school anymore, when we're gonna start working. So if you don't start now, keburu waktunya habis nanti, right? So I think that's really that's a really important thing to note there. And I think go ahead.
Come on, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it applies to honestly everything. It's like we're too young to not live life to the fullest, to its fullest extent.
For sure.
And it applies to like whether it's you want to start a new business or you want to pursue a new skill, you want to pursue a new hobby, down to like relationships. Like these are things that are, it's like inevitable that you'll experience failure in these things. Like it's what happens in life. It's just it's part of the package. It's
bound to happen, for sure.
It's bound to happen, yes. But the important thing is like to not look at it as failures and to look at it as like something to be embarrassed by. It's like it's genuinely I like to think of these failures as just like a learning opportunity,
for sure.
a lesson. I was talking to my friend Angie, like literally last night, and she was saying how similar to like reincarnation, how like I don't know, like the belief is like you the goal for your next life is to learn all the lessons you haven't learned on your previous life. That's kind of like how I would describe this sort of like how I would describe my mindset and how I run my life. It's like I'll do one thing, and if it fails, then I'll do another thing, and hopefully I'll learn more than I learn new lessons from compared to what I learned last time. Does that make sense? And it applies to everything from like relationships, friendships, hobbies, like anything really. Career.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how you get to know yourself better too, to know what you want to do and what you're passionate for in life, is to go through all those failures. And they're not really failures, you're just one step closer to getting to know who you actually are.
Exactly. And as cliche as it sounds, like it's true, every decision in your life, there's only two things. It's either you win or you learn, right? So whenever you fail, it's actually a learning step. And I think Chaya, what you're doing in Bye Bye Plastic Bags, I want to know like what you're thinking about how we as a country can move forward, right? Especially in terms of the sustainability thing, because I've also had conversations with my friends and also with a lot of people about this issue, because I think us as a country, sometimes we don't like it's like we don't make that a priority sometimes. At times, especially like in business, there are people who, when faced with the trade-off of getting profit or being sustainable, they prefer to get profit. I think that's what makes more sense to them. But how do we as a country, especially as youths, being the leaders of tomorrow, being those who will be change makers in 5-10 years or even from now, how do we do this collectively as a country?
I think when we all have a shared collective mindset that we have to make sustainable decisions, which I think a lot of youths, honestly, our age are already adopted, at least more than the previous generations, then we wouldn't have to worry about the new businesses and the new leaders that we're eventually going to have, which is our generation, right? And hopefully so right now, like I guess youth organizations, that's kind of what they're like something they're striving for. I guess it's like the collective educating the collective youth so that we all have the right values and morals in terms of the decisions we're making. But as for like right now, for our country, like Indonesia and our plastic problem, it's actually very challenging at this time because of the pandemic, right? So it's like not the environment isn't necessarily the biggest priority like anymore, because obviously we're going to have to prioritize the health of the public, right?
Mhm.
And making sure that this whole thing is stable, is going to be stabilized. I think the next step that our country should take, at least legally, is to set more policies in other cities. So you know how Jakarta sekarang udah nggak pakai plastic di
Yeah.
supermarkets. I think that at one point we're gonna have to set that policy for the rest of Indonesia, and to make it stricter and stricter in terms of like, now we're not only policies for plastic bags, but also for styrofoam and for cutleries and things like that. But obviously it's a long way to go, because it takes education, and it takes, harus ada sosialisasinya dulu lah. Kita nggak bisa langsung make that like drastic change without apalagi masyarakat kecil. Kan kayak misalnya like making that change from plastic to making that change from non-biodegradable packaging to like sustainable packaging would affect profits. Tapi kayak masih lebih mending lah for these big companies. How about like orang-orang di pasar? How about people like, how about farmers? You know, things like
Yep.
that.
Mhm.
So I think, but I'm pretty sure we're heading there. Yeah. So I'm just very, very hopeful right now. I do pray every day that the country will head towards that direction fast, because we don't have much time left.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully. But as youth, then well, the thing we can do is just to remind who's closest to us, and to make the environment closest to us, the people closest to us, as sustainable as possible. That's kind of the best thing we can do, and to also reflect on yourself and see if you're you know, contributing to this problem.
Yeah, I think I feel like it has to go step by step. It's not
Yeah.
going to be a process that happens overnight, but when people who actually know that it's an issue start from themselves, when they act it out in their lifestyle, then people will see, hey, this guy is doing this. They're saving the environment. They're doing all these
Yeah.
different things, and gue ikut deh. Kayaknya ini lumayan
Yeah.
interesting deh. And then we can start, having that culture. And I feel it's also important that this is something that is in our education systems, in my opinion, because not only do people have to be educated about, like, obviously, yang ada di buku, like the textbook things, but it's also important for us to be, obviously be aware of these issues as people go on, because bakal sayang banget kalau misalnya they don't, because the kids today, they're the future. In 2030 we're going to be in a productive age, and I know this is something that I speak about in like almost like in a lot of my episodes, but literacy is important for me. Like what I'm doing, like, so mungkin gue cerita dikit ya. I started this digital literacy movement juga, namanya Gen Digital, and what we do is, because things are moving very rapidly in the digital age, so we teach underprivileged kids di tempat-tempat different places around Indonesia of how to basically use your phone wisely, security, privacy, and even like basic coding. So I think I'm doing my part in digital, then mungkin you're also doing your part, and also Aziza in sustainability. So I think in a nutshell, it's a literacy thing. We have to start young, and we have to be aware it starts with ourselves, right? If we don't do it, then like sama aja bohong ya. Everyone will not be able to kayak rasain impact kita juga. So I think Chaya, that was really great. I think there's a lot that our audience can take away from what you're saying. Aziza, ada yang lu mau tambahin nggak?
At the same time, like, maybe this is also like pressuring for all our listeners, So I just also want to remind everyone that's listening that to reflect on yourself, but don't be too hard on yourself.
Yes.
Like yes, there might be like imposter syndrome if you don't do the things that you preach, for example, but we're all human at the end of the day. So
Yep.
yeah, just for everyone to sort of try their best at what they do and try to impact everyone positively in whatever, and for example, in the digital way and environmental way, but at the
For
same
sure.
time, yeah, chill down a little bit is also good.
Yeah. I
Yes.
feel like there's like a pressure. Like I feel like I see it a lot in our generation. It's like, oh, like I have to be a part of an organization.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I feel like that's a very recent thing I've noticed. It's like I need to be a part of something, like whether it's a movement, an organization, an online zine or something. And really, like you don't need any of that, you know. Like being a part of something big, like being a part of an organization or things like that is just one way of
Yep.
pursuing, of nurturing what you're passionate about.
Mhm.
You can, when in actuality you can sort of ingrain these values in anything that you do.
For sure.
Like if you like an example is like, for example, when you're starting a business, have those values already from the start, as in like you're sustainable, or you want to be aware of the issues, or of the issues around you, or even back to like your day-to-day, sort of the things that you do every day, from not using a plastic bottle, like like it's very, very small. But they're very small, you know. Those are very small things that you can do, but make it does cause a bigger change, you know. Collectively,
Exactly.
that can create a bigger change. And even more importantly, it causes a change in how you view things. Like it causes that mindset, like it builds that like mindset of, okay, this is actually very important. It's something, you know, it's something important that I should, you know, try to avoid, you know.
Mhm. For
Yeah.
sure. And I think, you know what I'm getting from what you're saying, like to summarize your point, a lot of people are focusing on the how, like I have to join organizations, but I
Yeah.
think it's all about the why, right? When you have your why set, when you know the purpose, you can go with any how to focus on the why, right? To be able to solve the why. So
Right.
it's not the organizations that you have to join that should be the purpose. It's the issue, like let's say sustainability. And then you can do all these different things, be it in your home, in your communities, in your organizations, to be able to
Exactly. Yes.
solve that why. Chaya, thank you so much. It was a very
you.
interesting conversation, and I became educated as well about sustainability and, you know, all the different things that you've done and will continue doing, obviously, as you go on to university. Is there anything else you want to say before we finish this episode?
No, you summed it up so well. Thank you so much for having me. Like this podcast felt, you know, like I really like how it was more like a discussion more than it was like a interview. It was like, because I do think that both of you have very like the insights that you guys gave during this podcast was also very interesting. I definitely learned a lot from you both too. So yeah, thank you for having me, and I hope the podcast runs successfully and smoothly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Like, thank you.
For sure, for sure. Kalau gitu, nama gue Isaac Winoro.
I'm Aziza.
I'm Chaya.
This is the Footprints Podcast signing out. Bye-bye, everyone.